Systemic risk is defined as the risk of collapse of an entire market or system. It is inherent to market systems and therefore unavoidable. Some companies can become too big to fail, which essentially means that these companies make up a significant portion of the economy and dominate their respective industries. As these companies grow and make connections in the economy, systemic risk is increased. If such a company were to fail, there would be a ripple effect across the entire sector, market, or economy the company is involved in. The financial sector of the economy was where the systemic risk came into play. Investment banks such as Bear Stearns invested heavily in mortgage-backed securities as well as sold many credit default swaps. This put Bear Stearns in heavy debt to other companies, which is the root of the systemic risk. Banks such as Stearns made these decisions based on the assumptions that the housing market would never fail. If you remember, credit default swaps are essentially insurance on a debt. The seller of the credit default swap agrees to pay the holder of the security if the security ever fails. In return, the seller gets paid on a regular basis for this insurance. However, these credit default swaps bolstered the systemic risk already present. The swaps were easy ways to make money, so investment banks sold many of them, deepening their connections with the investors. The systemic risk at this point was so high that the failing of one major bank could lead to an economic recession with all of the ripple effects. Now, these connections weren't a problem as long as the housing prices never fall. If the prices don't fall, then the investors will keep investing in the mortgage-backed securities and investment banks will continue selling them and insuring them. This is, however, where the systemic risk becomes a real crisis. House prices would fail and the whole system would unravel. When housing prices fell, the mortgage-backed securities lost value, hurting the investors. Luckily, many of them had credit default swaps, so companies like Bear Stearns and AIG would provide compensation for their losses. Except these companies never anticipated the fall of housing prices, so they never had the money necessary to compensate their insured clients. They quickly ran out of money and went bankrupt. After bankruptcy, the whole financial sector and the economy as a whole was disturbed. Investors lost money, credit markets froze, and the global systemic risk became a reality as well. Globalization of the economies intertwined America with the rest of the world, so foreign markets were hurt as well. America's economy almost collapsed were it not for government intervention, and our economy is still recovering today.
Created using Powtoon.